and welcome to another Retro Core. And I know a lot of you guys have been waiting a long time for this one because it's time to take a look at the Sega Dreamcast. Yes, Sega's last home console. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the tech specs.
Dreamcast!
The Dreamcast is equipped with an Hitachi SH4 32-bit RISC processor and a 128-bit graphics processor, delivering 1.4 gigaflops of pure processing power. The Sega Dreamcast was Sega's fastest selling console ever, selling out in next to no time. Released on the 27th of November 1998 in Japan, with a Western release almost 1 year later. Around the front of the console we have 4 controller ports for up to 4-player action offline, and around the back we have the multi-AV out, link cable port, power in, and a 56KB modem, which was standard in Japan, and then later replaced with a broadband modem. Software came on proprietary discs known as GD-ROM. From the front they look like normal CDs, but flip them around and you'll see the inner data circle, which can hold up to 1.2 gigabytes of data. The controller is an odd beast, built around the Saturn's 3D controller. It comes complete with a fairly responsive analog stick, pretty awful D-pad, 4 face buttons, and around the back, 2 analog triggers, and slots for the visual memory unit or other accessories such as a microphone. The visual memory unit was like a mini console in its own right, ripped off by Sony by the way, containing its very own D-pad, start and select buttons, and 2 face buttons. Joining 2 units together would allow for data transfer. These units acted as memory cards but could also play primitive games, as well as show information during gameplay when connected to the Dreamcast controller. They could even be used in many Sega, Capcom and other arcade games in Japan. Another common accessory was the Buru Buru pack. This unit would add some much needed weight to the Dreamcast controller as well as vibration. Due to the Dreamcast controller being pretty awful for fighting games, Sega released the arcade stick, featuring a real arcade cabinet joystick. Games in Japan came in standard CD jewel cases. They come in 3 standard sizes, from the typical CD case, to a slightly wider one to hold thicker manuals, to a standard double CD case design. In the States many games came in normal CD cases too, but in Europe they got these awful flimsy cases that always cracked on the hinges. Taking a look at the standard Japanese release, we can see we have the obligatory spine card, complete with color printed CD, quite often with a transparent tray. The manuals are the typical affair as you'd expect from Sega, full color print and full of information. On the back of the case for all regions, you are presented with details, from game type to compatible accessories to save data size.
Dreamcast!
So there you have it, that's the Sega Dreamcast, and in many ways it was a machine well ahead of its time. But what about the games? Well, Sega Dreamcast had many great innovative games as well as many brand new arcade licenses. Don't forget, this was basically an arcade machine in the home. So let's take a look at some of these games in action. Okay, let's kick things off with Dead or Alive 2 from Tecmo. As with all the Dead or Alive games, the story in this one is complete nonsense. In fact, I don't really understand it. Any excuse for a fight, I guess. But who cares about the story? We're here for the bouncy breasts, right? Well, no. We're here for the quality one-on-one fighter. Or at least those of us past puberty are. One of the highlights featured in Dead or Alive, introduced by this game, are the multi-layered stages. At times it's just fun to knock your opponents through the wall or off the ledge just to see what else the stage has to offer. Those of you into team battles will also be very happy here. The ability to have team battles that allow you to switch characters on the fly is so rewarding, and Dead or Alive does it well. Almost as well as the Mountain Seeker costumes available for each character.
これが無限転身流よ。
レイファンにはパワーが足らないよね。
あなたは力の何たるかを知らない。
Get ready, fight! You lose!
最高のハーモニーだわ。
Sonic's transition into a real 3D adventure got a lot of stick back in the day, but in all honesty, it's actually not that bad once you get past the dodgy camera. It offered speed and reasonable controls for a first attempt. There's even some RPG elements and minigames to keep you amused. What won't keep you amused though are some of the other characters' stages. Searching for Chaos Emeralds as Knuckles is such a drag. I really do wish these stages could be switched off. These days you can play Sonic Adventure in HD on the likes of Xbox Live. It sure does look a little better and the camera seems to have been fixed a little, but for the genuine experience, you just have to play it on the Dreamcast. Ferrari F355 Challenge was the love child of Yu Suzuki. Yes, that Yu Suzuki behind such classics as Outrun, Power Drift, Afterburner, and Hang On. Oh, and let's not forget Shenmue too. Anyway, Yu has a fetish for Ferraris, which led him to develop the 3-screen arcade original F355 Challenge. Can you imagine the surprise when Yu said he'd be bringing it to the Dreamcast? He did though, and it's pretty much identical to its arcade big brother. Those looking for an arcade style racer will be disappointed though, as Ferrari F355 Challenge is more simulation than arcadey. In fact, it's so precise on the simulation front, the game is quite the challenge with all the driving aids switched off. Definitely one for the more serious racing fan. Well, as long as you like the F355, since that's the only car you can choose. Coming to us from Atlas, you just know Maken X is gonna be strange. Kay, a girl whose father was killed working on the development of the Maken sword, swears to take revenge for her father's death. By taking hold of the Maken, she is able to brainjack, defeat the enemies, allowing her to find out information, as well as control their body. This alone is rather messed up, but then we have the enemies, which range from cyborgs from Psyvariar, Chinese assassins, fat dumpy looking creatures from India, and what can only be described as a mutant robot Nazis from Germany. Kay travels around the world following leads in order to avenge her father's death. Playing Maken X now is kinda strange, as you'll find your right thumb searching for the second analog stick. Of course, back then, there wasn't any, so controlling this game could be a little fiddly at times. It seemed just fine back in 1994, but now it's kind of awkward. Still, with a little perseverance, you'll become accustomed to the controls and find yourself playing one of the most underrated first-person shooters of its time. Capcom often take credit for Gigawing, however it was actually developed by Takumi. The original arcade game ran on Capcom's CPS-2 board, using a horizontal screen. Quite an unusual decision for the vertical scrolling shooter, but one that works well. This Dreamcast port is pretty much indistinguishable from the arcade version, but has a load of new options added, including an art gallery. As you can see, the action is fast and furious in this 2D masterpiece, easily one of the best 2D shooters on the Dreamcast. A year later, Gigawing 2 hit the Dreamcast in an arcade-perfect port from the Sega Naomi original. Again, this was published by Capcom and developed by Takumi. Personally, I don't really rate this anywhere near as highly as the original. Sure, the 3D graphics are well done and the gameplay is pretty much the same by keeping the reflector shield that allows you to reflect projectiles against the enemies, often resulting in massive point bonuses, but the atmosphere just isn't there. The chatter from the pilots is annoying at times, the soundtrack is just there, and you won't remember any tunes from this game unlike the first one. Also, I don't find the pace anywhere near as adrenaline pumping either, which is odd. The game is just as busy as the original. Gigawing 2 is a good game and it's worth a purchase. However, it's not a priority in my opinion.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. New Age of Heroes.
Let's go. The Marvelverse series of games has kinda lost its flair these days in my opinion, but back in the 90s on the Saturn and Dreamcast, they were fresh, fun and exciting. Back in the day I spent countless nights playing this online via the Dreamcast's broadband adapter. The gameplay was fast and fluid, with no real noticeable lag. Yep, in Japan we did have internet capable of such things, which most people take for granted these days. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was the first time, apart from Phantasy Star Online, that I had ever played online. I'm serious when I say it was just as smooth as playing someone sitting right next to you. Of course these days the online aspect of the game is long gone, but what does that leave you with? Well, how about one of the best 2D fighters of that generation, with 56, yes, 56 characters to choose from. You're sure going to find at least a handful of favourites, as well as building up your very own team. I love the way you can choose any mismatch of characters to play as in your team, each coming with their very own unique special moves and team combo attack. There's so much in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that I couldn't do it justice in the short time I have here to talk about it. Now, I'm the type of person who hates sports games, apart from motor racing. However, I absolutely love a good tennis game, and you can't get much better than Power Smash 2. Originally an arcade game running on the Naomi hardware, this Dreamcast port is identical. Back in the day I thought the player models looked really good. These days, well, they still look okay, but nowhere near as good as I once thought. Gameplay wise, we have a variety of courses to play on, such as grass or clay. As you'd expect from a quality Sega game, the ball physics react differently to the type of court you're playing on, giving the game a much more feel of depth than some other tennis games. There are plenty of game modes too, such as the men or women singles, mixed or doubles. If you've never played a tennis game before, I'd seriously recommend picking up Power Smash Tennis 2, also known as Virtual Tennis 2 in some parts of the world. So what do you think of the games we've seen so far? Sega Dreamcast sure had a lot of good games, but it also had a lot of good games that were never released, either because the Dreamcast was not selling as well as Sega hoped, or due to political reasons, such as this one here. This is Propeller Arena. Now, this game is pretty much finished, but it never did get released due to the events that happened on 9/11. So Sega thought it was kind of politically incorrect to release this game, which you can see why, since you're flying airplanes around the city landscapes in one of the stages. But in reality, this is a really good dogfight simulation game. Well, not even simulation, it's a dogfight arcade game. So let's take a look at Propeller Arena in action right now. As soon as I had heard Propeller Arena by Sega AM2, it became one of my most wanted Sega Dreamcast titles that sadly never saw the light of day. Thankfully the game was finished and did make its way onto the net thanks to some very generous people. Propeller Arena is basically a Battle for the Skies action game. You take control of one of 8 characters, each having their own strengths and weaknesses. You can shoot down opposing players with your unlimited machine gun or pick up special abilities found inside mysterious floating boxes within the playing arena. Now, you're probably thinking that this game would have been a great online multiplayer, and well, it would have been. Sega had big plans for this game. You were even going to be able to do voice chat during battles. It was years before the Xbox came along. Sega was so ahead of the time. Sadly, the online aspect of the game was never made available, even after the game was leaked, because it needed a dedicated server that Sega obviously never set up. Still, what we have to play offline is excellent. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. How can a bus driving simulation be fun? Well, surprisingly, it really can be. Taking place along 3 real-life Tokyo bus routes, this game has you take the role of a local bus driver, and it will actually make you a better driver. Well, maybe not, but it sure does penalise you for not following the rules of the road. Forget to indicate? Penalty. Break the speed limit? Penalty. Cut someone off on the road? Penalty. If you run someone over, it's an instant game over. So as you can see, Tokyo Bus Guide is rather strict. As you drive your bus, you can view it from 4 different perspectives. The default is the cabin view, which actually rolls the screen to give the illusion of driving a heavy bus. It can be tricky to see pedestrians or other vehicles in this mode, however, which is why you will find yourself switching to one of the overhead views from time to time. Tokyo Bus Guide really does want you to follow the rules of the road, but hey, that's what makes this game fun to play. It really makes you appreciate the amount of stuff a bus driver needs to put up with, be it idiots on the road to the strict timelines.
Soul Calibur versus Maxi. Battle 1, fight!
Soul Calibur is the second game in the Soul series, following on from Soul Blade or Soul Edge, depending on where in the world you live. The original version of Soul Calibur ran on Namco's System 12 arcade hardware, which is basically a souped-up PlayStation, so it was a major surprise to see the home port being released on the much more powerful Dreamcast, especially when Namco were in bed with Sony. Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast blows away the arcade original in every area. In fact, even though the game came out in 1999, it still looks good even now in 2017. With a total of 19 characters and 18 stages available, once everything is unlocked, Soul Calibur will keep you busy for quite some time. There's just so much to offer, including the mission mode, which is only properly available on the Dreamcast. Gundam EEF vs Zeon and DX is a Capcom Naomi arcade hit that made its way onto the Dreamcast only in Japan. As the title suggests, this game is actually the original arcade release plus its update, coming on 2 GD-ROMs for each game no less. There's not much to the plot of this game since Gundam plots are always basically the same thing, but what we do have is a quality arcade action game. Take control of many different Gundam mech suits and head out with the partner to take on the evil Zeon Empire. Or you can even play as the evil Zeon Empire, if that's what you prefer. You'd think with this being a Gundam title that the controls would be rather clunky, however, with Capcom developing the game, we're giving controls to flow with the action ever so well. You can shoot from mid-flight, shoot off a cannon blast, or even get close and personal with your energy saber. Those looking for some mech action really should check this one out. Oh, and you Gundam fans will love the soundtrack, as it's lifted directly from the animation, including 2 vocal tracks. Capcom sure loved the Dreamcast, or maybe it's because they used Sega's Naomi hardware for most of their arcade games in the late 90s and early 2000s. Either way, Capcom sure showed Sega fans a lot of love with many new franchises, one of which was Power Stone. In this Smash Bros. Style game, you take control of one of 8 characters and go one-on-one in a fight to the death. You can pick up all sorts of wacky weapons throughout the battle, which can do some serious damage to your enemy, but nothing comes close to the destruction dealt out with your special form, which can be achieved by collecting Power Stones throughout the stage. Collect enough of these and let your fury free.
Welcome to the Power Stone world.
A year later, Capcom released Power Stone 2. However, this one is not as good in my opinion. I mean, it should be. You have a larger character roster, up to 4 players at once, and multiple stage areas. However, the camera in this game is just horrid, making it extremely difficult to lose track of your player. Plus, the multiple stage levels really do nothing to add any fun. Stick to Power Stone 1. It's by far the better of the two. Near the end of the Dreamcast's life, we saw an onslaught of shooters. Most were very good, however one that seems not to get much attention was Psyvariar 2, by Korean developer SKONEC Entertainment. Psyvariar 2 may not have the best design levels in the world, nor are many of the levels long in length. Actually, it's quite a short game. But what it does offer is frantic action with a pumping soundtrack and a unique way of powering up your weapon. In this game, you don't collect power-ups in the traditional sense, but instead quickly flick your robot from left to right to start it spinning. This spinning frenzy will boost your firepower tremendously and allow you to slip between many enemy projectiles. There's also the buzz chain, which you gain by flying as close to the enemy projectiles without getting hit. This dangerous way of playing rewards you with even greater firepower and a crapload of points too. Originally running on Sega's Model 1 hardware, this Dreamcast port has actually been given a facelift over the arcade original, with new metallic effects and real transparencies for water, giving the game a much more modern look, or at least when it was released. Story-wise, it's pretty much the same as the first game. Yet again, the president's daughter has been kidnapped, and yet again some old-age madman is running the show. The only difference is that we're now on a ship rather than in a building. But hey, we don't play this type of game for the story, we play for the action, and that is available by the bucket load in Dynamite Deka 2. In fact, again, it's pretty much like the original game, although there are now a few more larger areas to explore than the original. There aren't many scrolling fighters on the Dreamcast, so this is a must if you're into that style of game.
Napple Tail へ。
Napple Tail is one of those Dreamcast games I wish got an English translation. What we have here is a platform RGB hybrid. Normally these games are easy to get into, but not this one. There's way too much dialogue for anyone who's not fluent in Japanese to wade through. Now you're probably thinking you could just skip right through it all, but sadly you need to know what's going on in order to open up new areas in the game or to understand the alchemy sections. Still, what platforming is here is pretty nice looking, if you can get to it. However, the highlight for me would be the soundtrack, which is composed by Yoko Kanno, one of Japan's #1 female soundtrack composers. I'd love to play you some of the vocal tracks, but I just know I'd be hit with a copyright strike. G-Rev brought the Dreamcast two of its most beautiful looking shooters, one being Border Down and the other being Under the Feet. While Under the Feet received the HD remake on the Xbox 360, Border Down has remained an arcade and Dreamcast exclusive, and what an exclusive it is. As you can see, the game is very pretty with a great soundtrack, but that's not the main reason to play Border Down. The game has a very unique mechanic. Unlike traditional games, in Border Down there are actually 3 versions of each stage, ranging from easy to hard. If you start on the hard version, you only have 1 life. However, if you start on the easy version and die, you will border down to the medium version of the stage, which will look slightly different and have new enemy patterns. Die again and you'll be made to finish the stage on the hard setting. This may sound like a really stupid idea, but surprisingly, it works well. And there's part 2 of this Dreamcast Retro Core Special over and done with, featuring more great games, including one of my favourites, which is running in the background right now, Metropolitan Street Racer. In fact, it's the only PAL game I own. I did own more PAL games, but they all got sold because the cases are horrible. Anyway, Project Gotham Racing is the original name for this game, believe it or not. Yes, we all know Project Gotham Racing was released on the Xbox, but when this was in development, that's the name it went under. Bit of trivia for you there. How do I know? Well, I used to visit Berzerk Creations' office in Liverpool back in the day. Okay, so we've got even more Dreamcast games to take a look at, but we're running a bit short on time, so let's do a montage.
Flight ammunition. Flight ammunition. Get you there in no time.
Yes, darling. Just go.
Okay, here we go.
すいません。
何かしら。
オンダローに行きたいんですが、港南街はどっちですか？
隣の町ですよ。
And sadly we come to the end of this Sega Dreamcast Retro Core Special. Now what do you think of the Dreamcast itself? Well, personally I think it's a machine that never really got the chance it deserved. I mean, it had to stand up to the juggernaut that was the PlayStation 2, and to be honest, Sega just didn't have the money to support it, and there's the internal politics and God knows whatever else was going on at the time. So unfortunately, yes, poor old Dreamcast never got the chance. But it did bring a lot of innovative games to the gaming market. Had the PlayStation 2 not existed, who knows what we could have seen on the Sega Dreamcast. Anyway, please leave your comments below in the comment section and let me know what you think of this system. Coming up on the next Retro Core, we're going to take a look at the Sony PlayStation 1.